This is Radiant Voices Media.
Hey there, and welcome to the Transparently Jordan podcast, where I'll be talking with a new guest each week, and we'll be covering topics in health, fitness, lifestyle, and so much more. So stick around and let's get into today's episode. Alright, let's talk about supplements that actually earn a spot in my routine. Not hype, just results. I love the Tropica matcha because I love clean energy without the crash. But also, I like how this matcha is smooth, it's not bitter, and I genuinely look forward to having it every day. There's also the pineapple creatine. Creatine isn't just for muscle performance, you guys. There is more research coming out about how it supports mental clarity, mood, etc., etc. If you train, think, move, breathe, you should be taking creatine, in my opinion. So definitely try this pineapple flavored creatine. It tastes amazing. At nighttime, I also love their beauty custard. It legit tastes like dessert and supports recovery while I sleep. It is collagen, so it's great for the skin, the hair, joints, longevity. Both men and women, everybody should be taking collagen. If you want to level up your routine and feel good from the inside out, Tropica delivers. You guys can use my code JORDSDAY10 at checkout to save yourself some money. That's JORDZDAY10 at checkout. JORDSDAY10. Hey there, and welcome to the Transparently Jordan podcast. Now, to you listening, I want to thank you for sharing the podcast with your mates, with your family, with your friends. The podcast has grown exponentially over the last few episodes, and it, of course, could have not been possible without your support. So, thank you for doing that. As always, if you can, while you are listening, please, on Apple Podcast or Spotify, scroll down to the bottom, hit that 5-star review button. It really helps out the show and helps out the podcast. I also want to announce that, of course, the Courage to See journal is now out. So I know you like to come onto the podcast because either A, you know the guest, or B, you want to learn basically about entrepreneurship, about self-help, about how to be a better version of yourself. That is why I created this journal, the Courage to Be Seen journal. It is a journal that consists of 20 days worth of activities just to help you reflect through your past to help you move to the future. Now, I don't want people to be dwelling too much on the past. I think if you dwell too much, you can just kind of sit in this negative space basically. But I do think it is still important to recognize what has shaped you basically and what experiences have I guess shaped you to the person that you are today, whether that be a trait that you want to change, whether that's a trait that you like about yourself. That is what this journal has intended to be. It's just about reflecting on past experiences and really trying to discover what exactly has shaped you and how you can move forward. But today's episode is with Jordan Checker. Today we are going to be chatting about basically creating, and Jordan has just released a brand new health and fitness app. It is amazing. I have downloaded it. I have subscribed. The prep that you get on the app, the planning, the recipes, and just kind of the little things here and there, like swapping out recipes, actually it creating you a full shopping list and a no waste shopping list, I might add. All of those little things are something that, a person like me really appreciates because I do not like cooking. I do not have time for cooking, but I do prefer to cook fresh meals versus ordering my food all the time. I have gone through services like U Foods, like Muscle Meals, and where, yes, I do like those meals, and sometimes they do save time for me, and I do still order them. I do prefer cooking and actual prepping my own meals. And this app, sorry, has been amazing over the last week of me using it. And we are going to be just talking about the story behind it, the highs, the lows of building something from scratch. And, Jordan is also working as a personal trainer. He's doing other things as well. So, just trying to dive into how he has fit it all in and where he kind of started it all and where it's gotten to up to this point, sorry. If you want to listen to the first episode where this was recorded maybe almost a year ago now, maybe. That episode is live. You can find it in the show notes. And, that episode was kind of, I guess, talking about the start of the app, basically, the idea of it. He was still in the production side of the app. So yeah, I guess this is kind of coming full circle. I thank Jordan for coming back, and let's get into today's episode. Well, thanks again for coming on, Jordan. I really appreciate it. Welcome back, I
No,
guess.
thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
For you listening, I know I can't remember exactly what episode you were on, but that'll be in the show notes. So, again, thank you for coming on. But for the person listening, Jordan, if they had maybe a autobiography out in front of them,
Mm.
Jordan Checker autobiography, what exactly would they read in that
Oh,
biography?
depends how far back you go, I
Yeah.
guess, as well. Like, yeah, I mean, like the journey's kind of just it all, my ability and want and desire to work hard and do all those things definitely came from like sport
Hmm.
background, heavy background in sport.
Yeah.
Like competing at nationals at javelin and things like that, and fairly, that was what obviously life I thought it was going to be.
Mm.
And then you realize quickly, you go, oh, that's
Yeah.
not happening. And then,
Yeah.
we pivot into personal training and now, launching a nutrition app. And then, so, that's really a bit of a, let's see where that goes.
Mm.
I've got my visions and my plans, but, business is business. You ride the wave of what the world wants and what the people want. And, we'll adapt and go from there.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's a very good take, I think, because things change really,
Yeah.
and you gotta. I feel like too, like even every 6 months something happens, right? And you kind of
Mm.
gotta just like you were saying, ride the wave. But
Yeah.
again, like I think the first episode that you were on was kind of the starting of you were in the process of creating the app, and we were diving into that. But I guess now that it's launched and now that things are kind of rolling a little bit more, maybe start by telling the listener what is something that you've learned throughout all of this experience about yourself, about
Mm.
creating, about just it all in general.
Oh, there's so much.
Yeah.
Like again, it was funny when you messaged like asking to come back on. I was like, this is almost like perfect timing because I'm like, I think like it's probably become like the most challenging part of everything right now, which is weird because like I've been, it's been 3 years since I started brainstorming the idea of the app, and I think it's just in my head initially when you asked, I was like, this is a great opportunity. I guess to like speak to the reality of a lot of like the business thing. There's a reason why a lot of people it don't succeed, and like I think social media can make it seem more flashy and beautiful. But like, yeah, the last few months I've been like just bashing my head against the desk. You're just kind of grinding, and we launch, and you're like, yes, oh, that relief's there. And then, like I said to you just before we started, it's like, oh, but then there's a few issues that arise, and I'm like, well, now I don't feel confident pumping the marketing because I don't want people to have a bad experience. And my thing is, I want to help people, and I can't help them if it's not working. And so you kind of your head just starts to absolutely spin and go crazy. So I think, yeah, it's the reality that like it's way harder, but at the same time, it's that weird. It's harder, but it's easier in a sense. It's like probably it's as difficult as I potentially thought it would be, but you thought it would happen quicker. So like the hard just drags out, and that's probably what makes it like even more challenging. Is just because every like you're like, oh my god, this is just like going on and on and on. And I think that doesn't speak for everyone. Like I what we call like bootstrap this myself. Like no investment, it's purely off my own back. And so I'm not coming in and being able to have that large, like just dump $1 million into something and to be able to go crazy. So it's a lot of like sweat equity on top of just like, you know, your every dollar you make kind of reinvesting back in. And eventually like you start to get a little worn down by that. But that's like half the fun as well. Like this weird, I'm like, I feel like you got to be a little bit crazy, a little bit psycho to actually be like, this is a good idea. But it began, and I remember we talked about it initially, was like it began with the naivety of me not fully understanding what this journey was going to look like. And had I actually sat in and felt these feelings, I'm like, I'm actually not sure I would have done that because like it's a lot different to what you expect. Just because on social media you see like the business, oh, it's amazing, it's fun, it's this, it's like, yeah, but you can't do a day in a life where all I do is sit at a computer. No one's watching that. So I think it's yeah. I was really happy when you reached out because I was like, I think it's just like perfect timing to be like, this is what it is like, and so like we can easily push people to be like, come on, chase it, go after that, do this, and I'm like, yeah, but assess everything as well because like, how much risk are you taking on? How much are you willing to endure, and all those sort of things? And it's definitely, I think Toby Pierce, the founder of Sweat, has said it many times. Like, business is not for everyone. Like it's good. A lot of people can go out and do an amazing things, and you're capable of way more than you probably put yourself and realize. But then you do it, and you're like, oh, this is. You need a pretty strong mindset to get through a lot of these things.
Yeah, and I love that too because like you were saying, I think we always if you look at a successful business, for example, on socials or whatever, people are posting like where they are at now and you don't really see the behind the scenes a lot of the time. So
Yeah.
I think like for the person listening right now, like whatever age you are or if you're starting something or wanting to start something, like it's easy to compare now versus like 5 years down the track, these people that
Mm,
have these successful businesses, but it's grown. And I think it's very rare for things to be an overnight success right away,
yeah.
and I think like realizing that is probably such a hard thing for people to swallow. They think,
Yeah.
oh, you're gonna launch it tomorrow and you're gonna wake up and like be a billionaire or whatever it might be, right? um you were saying a few interesting things there. um you're of course kind of paying your way through, you're investing your own
Mm,
finances into this project. um what does that feel like what does that feel like when it comes to working full time or whatever, and then doing something at the side, reinvesting into yourself,
mm,
because I think that can be a stressful thing for some people to um and it's funny to think about that, like it's hard to invest in ourselves for whatever reason, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
everything that you earn, instead of like putting it into something else, that's what we often do. We put it into something else and send it for ourselves. So I guess how did you get to that situation, and like what does that feel like investing in yourself?
Yeah, I think it's pretty daunting in a sense in that you're actually like you're like at the same time as like I'm backing myself, I'm still kind of like I don't know if I'm actually capable of this. Like you shadow those doubts. There's a lot of that. And like I said, over this 3 year journey, like the bank account doesn't move. Like every dollar that comes in, I'm like that's just gone instantly. So you do have to be like quite wise, and it is a bit of a oh wow, like I've been working like I do work Monday to Saturday with PT sessions still, you know, to pay this to be able to do it, because then you've got all these the fees that come with having to get the trademarking and that comes with a lawyer and all these sort of things. You're like, fuck, didn't expect that when I started, and oh shit, they charge a lot, and you're like, there's a lot of shocks when it comes to like the financial side of things. So yeah, it's not a matter of just like do it like that sort of thing. So, but at the same time it's nice feeling to back yourself and be like, no, no, I'll work through this. I'll figure it out. I'll be fine. Like, that's where you do have to try and like find people. And this is hard. I don't think it's just people that are doing the same thing because there's very few people in my life that are doing the same thing. I've got like maybe one or two, friends that are really kind of like going after that sort of thing as well. But it's about having good connections in your life still, like my mates that I go play golf with once or twice a week where possible, just to get myself outdoors, some fresh air and a reset. Or you just have a bit of a joke, go get go to the pub for a couple of beers and a palmy or something, just to be like good connections around you, so you have a positive network, which is challenging for a lot of people, or like like moving across the other side of the world, like that changes how you. For me, these are like lifelong friends, so it's not that hard for me to find those people, but for others, that might be pretty challenging. And so, but don't then just try and find people doing exactly what you're doing, which I think maybe I don't know from personal experience, you may have felt that as well. It's
Mm,
like I'm moving here and I'm doing this, therefore I need to find those people. I'm like,
yeah.
no, you just need to find good people
Yeah.
that are encouraging. They don't
Mm,
have to be doing what you're doing.
yeah.
And that's cool. Like that's totally fine.
It's refreshing too, isn't it? Like, I think too, like when you think of a lot of my social group are physios, for example, doing the same thing. But ever since I started this podcast and started, the network as well, it's a different area. So, you surround yourself with new people, but then it's still refreshing to go and chat with people like you're saying that
Mm,
don't know anything about that space, right? It's like you were saying, it's a reset. And two, I think it's so boring if you're only talking with people that A, have the same opinions of you, or B, like are just in the same area of you.
yeah.
You're talking about the same thing over and over again, and you're not really learning
Yeah.
about anything else. And I think there's so much more to learn basically in this
Well,
world.
you don't actually like one of this has been like a fairly we may have talked about it slightly last time, but like this realization of like there's other things out here that like I like different ways of living or lifestyles that I may not have experienced that I might be like that's actually what I want to do. And so like I know for me like especially in the last like year or so or whatever I'm like wow, I actually don't like I think I've not lowered my standards but maybe lowered the financial goal that I want at the end of this because I'm like, what in reality do I actually want? What I actually really want, and through now, seeing some of my mates that like live on or have a farm or have these sort of things, I'm like, you know what? I actually really, I just want to be outdoors. I want to have a property, maybe some horses, do all those sort of things and whatever. And you're like, that's very different to what I thought I wanted when I was 18. But I hadn't been like exposed to that sort of lifestyle. So had I not gone out and just met new people still, and still, despite having a very good friendship group, I'm still very social in terms of just meeting new people. Obviously, through clients, you meet a lot of people, and you just absorb their ways of living and being like, oh, okay, I didn't like that, but that's not a bad idea. And yeah, it's important, especially like opinions that we do talk about those things and we challenge each other on that, but also just what people are doing, because it may be unintentional the learnings that you get from that. Because the learnings, like good and bad. Like some you don't like what someone did, you're like, well, I'm not going to fucking do that. Just as much as you can be like, that was amazing. So it's definitely important.
Yeah, I think exactly that. You are your environment. When I moved to Adelaide, I mean, Adelaide too, even 8 years ago when I first moved here was a lot different. It's changed now, but I never imagined like 8 years ago when I was living back in Vancouver, Canada, to, owning a home was an option because things are just drastically more expensive in Vancouver, but also the scape of Vancouver is a lot different. It's apartments, high rises, things like that, kind of like Gold Coast, in a
Yeah.
sense. Whereas you come to Adelaide and it was 360 the opposite. It's all homes. And I think it's moving that direction now. A lot of apartments are being built and townhomes and things like that. But again, you are your environment. Now I'm like, oh, I actually kind of like, the thought of owning a home
Mm.
or, maybe a small townhouse or something like that. Whereas I always was okay with something on the 23rd floor or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think you are your environment basically.
Yeah.
When you were, I guess, Jordan, creating the app, you're investing into the app and you're kind of investing into yourself. You were saying that, things were extended and you had like a time frame in your mind. What kind of challenges came up for you that kind of extended things and how did that uh, I guess how did you overcome those
Mm.
challenges in a sense?
Well, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's the baseline of how do you overcome those things. I'm like, well, do you want to still do the thing you said you were going to do? I'm like, you just have to do it. Like, there's plenty of these things. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. And then the next morning you wake up, yeah, gotta fucking do it. You just like, I'm not gonna throw the towel in. Like, I know there's plenty of times where you go like, you're like, maybe this is just not a good idea. But you're like, but deep down, like this is where I'm going. This is what I want to keep doing, and I know that overpowers every single time. So you just have to find a way, and you just learn. Whatever you have to do, whether there's someone in your network that you remember, or a book, or a YouTube video, or learning how to do trademarking or Facebook ads or whatever. You like just go learn. You figure it out. But I think the biggest thing in the delays was just like I just didn't know how long it would take. So my estimation of like this is when I would be live, this is when I'll be doing this. Like I've never done this before. It's purely guessing. I had never known, I don't know anyone that's ever done it before. So I didn't even have anyone to talk to. I didn't, whenever a challenge came up, I'm like, is that normal? I don't know. I can't ask that question. So, partway through the journey, I had an advisor come on board that, she had co-founded a nutrition app before and exited and done all that. And then, so that's where I started to get a little bit more clarity. But even then, like some of the deadlines that she would be like, oh, this should be done by then. I'm like, that's not fucking happening. Like, because more just kept coming up. And so I don't know whether that's because we've done offshore development. It's not in Australia. There's all different journeys. She never did offshore. She always had it here. So that's always different. But yeah, a lot of the challenges were just kind of like, all right, this is what we want to add. Here we go. And then you add it, and then you have to go through the testing. I'm like, wow, this takes a while. Then we have to fix the things in the testing that weren't working. And then you get to the stage where it's ready, and you're like, no, something's missing. So then you have to add something else. Or we had issues with like trademark, where our trademark got flagged, and so we weren't approved initially, and so we had to tweak that. And that took, I probably had to wait 6 months to hear from the opposing person's lawyer and their company to confirm that they were happy to, move ahead with what we agreed upon. And this is just a waiting game. And in that 6 months, I'm like, I don't know whether I'm going to have to fully rebrand, change the name, new logo, do all those business name, company, everything. And you're like, picking a business name, people go, that's easy. I'm like, no, that's like one of the biggest things, is because that's what people will remember you by. Like, sure, there's plenty of brands that just kind of like, they didn't like their name. Or I know the famous story of like the Nike logo. Like Phil Knight hated that logo. But like, that's not the reality for most brands. Most brands went, yep, that's my logo. It looks really good. And there's strategy behind why they've chosen that still. And there was a lot of strategy behind why we chose the name, the logo, and all those things, and what I'm trying to make it feel. So for me to be sitting there for 6 months going, "Mm." And in that 6 months, even if the app was ready, I couldn't go live. And so you're sitting there going, oh my God, like what is going on? Like, and then somehow that's fun. It's just, yeah, doesn't make sense, because all it takes, it's like, I think since taking up golf, like anyone that plays golf will completely understand this. You're just having a shit day, real shit day, and then you just hit a belter. You're like, I love this sport. And it's the exact same feeling. You just beat down, beat down, beat down. Then it takes one good thing to happen. You're like, all right, we're back. Then I get beat down for the next 3 months or whatever. And you're like, but it just takes one good thing. You're like, oh, we are so back here. So you just got to be persistent. It's a long game. And unfortunately, we're looking for quick fixes all the time. And that's just not the reality. Like, a lot of people talk about how, the overnight success took 10 years.
Well, that's the thing, right?
You see it quick, but you don't see the back end.
Yeah. We're living in a world where everybody wants it now, right? You want a quick fix, whether it even be like going through like weight loss or going through muscle gain or whatever. Everybody wants it tomorrow and they want it now. We're moving into this Adelaide. What I used to like about Adelaide, it was very a slow paced city.
Yeah.
It's moving quicker and quicker now. And I think the people are people are just so busy these days, or they act like they're so busy.
Yeah,
and
definitely act.
Yeah, and they feel like, or I feel like, exactly that. People want something tomorrow, basically. What was the goal originally, and how did that goal kind of develop over the years of you creating this thing?
Yeah, well, like initially, like it was. I mean, my end goal was always I wanted a fitness app. That's always what I wanted. And Toby Pearson, the Sweat app, and everything. Talk about environment. Knowing that he was from Adelaide, him and Kayla were from Adelaide. They started here. Like I was like, that was kind of like you can be from Adelaide and do these things. And I always had that itch for a little bit of. I didn't think of it as business at the time, but me and mates in year 9 and 10 started like a clothing brand and all those sort of things. And I never once thought. I was like, I like business. I never even thought of that. I was just like, I don't know. I just like doing things, whether it was sport or whatever. Like I like to be a bit creative. And so that's the path it took. And then it's just so turned out that that's a pretty cool thing to do when you have a business, because you get to be really creative. So I was like, let's do a fitness app. And then I was like, okay, well, you have to obviously look at competition and all those sort of things as well. And as a PT, I work with these people day to day. I was like, for a lot of these people, training is not the problem. And you use a lot of the apps, and like you see in My Fitness Pal, and it's like you have to track all the calories, and people always talk about how they just hate doing that. And I was like, okay, so you talked about effort before. Like the idea is that we try and reduce the effort and the timeline, because you can still reduce timelines without being unrealistic with those things as well. It's just having a good product, service, coach, whatever it may be. And so then I was like, all right, let's do nutrition first. Initially, it was like, all right, let's just have meal plans and whatnot. And then the advisor was like, look, we need a little more substance here. And we're like, okay, so we add in the progress tracker, which just allows to, really it's the same. The base of the business might be pretty similar, but it's just that I can see my progress, then we can automatically adjust your targets based on that sort of stuff as well. And so you filter down there. And then obviously in the future, I'd like to still add training, but I was like, this is something that I want to be affordable enough that people can add on top of their gym membership or their PT and all those sort of things. Because, what a lot of people assume is they go to their PT, they're like, I want to lose weight. Challenge is most PTs aren't qualified in weight loss or in nutrition, so they don't have the qualification to do anything bar say, here's your calories and protein, which means you're going to have to track your calories, which people don't like tracking their calories. So I kind of just break it down. And you're like, oh, all right, there it is. And then the real confidence boost was seeing like someone, I don't know if you know, like Adam Sullivan, like EBT, and he's selling meal plans and they're selling them for like $70 a week. I'm like, hang on a second here, $70 a week. How about a little bit cheaper? And so now we've got it at like 6.90 a week. And again, I don't want to compete on price because someone will always come and try and find a way. So I still want to try and improve value and keep that going up. But that's kind of like the progressions it took. And I mean, there's a way more progressions in there as well. But like that's the crux of it all from me being like, 20, seeing this Toby Pierce guy, you know, at that time make a lot of money, but also in the fitness space. And I was like, that's cool. I want to do that. And it's funny because a few of my mates that like I haven't seen in a while, they're like, this is cool because I remember in school, like year 12, you talking about wanting to have a fitness app. And I'm like, yeah, if I say something, I want it. I'm going to do it. Like, and here we are.
What kind of gaps in the market did you see that you wanted to kind of address with the app? Because I have the app, I've used it for the last week,
Mm,
and I think there are a lot of kind of good things in there that you don't get with MyFitnessPal or things like that, when it comes to the shopping list and, no waste and things like
mm,
that. Like
mm,
I've had recipe books, for example, that have done that, but then you're needing to buy ingredients for each individual recipe. You
yeah.
know what I mean? So what kind of other things in the market or gaps, sorry, in the market did
Mm.
you want to address with the app?
Yeah. Well, I think the big thing is how you talk to people as well. And so like you don't actually have to go to the gym with this. And which is probably one of again, the name, that's one of the road bumps we came into. And this shows the importance of a name being called In Check Fit. People are going to assume it's like a fitness app potentially, which is one of the downsides. Initially we wanted In Check and that was it. Just In Check. But trademark wise, we just couldn't do it. So we had to pivot. Maybe one day we can eventually get that depending on what happens with that other business. You buy the name out, whatever it may be. But I want to. It's something that you can do any form of exercise or no exercise. You still can get progress. You can still lose weight by doing no movement. Like that's possible. You're gonna have to just eat less than if you were moving, but so you can make it easier for yourself. But and you might be able to see that in how we frame the like at the moment the stuff on social media. Like we post some stuff with like Ollie. I know you did a podcast with Ollie and Mira. So there's like some training stuff on there. We got Danny doing some Pilates, and so it's trying to show like all walks of life can use this app and can help them lose weight. It's not limited to people that are just gym junkies, because the gym junkie is probably using MyFitnessPal, but it also has to be in a way that people can afford. And so that, like I said, it's that additional layer rather than being a service in itself. Because you go see a nutritionist, get a meal plan, that might be $100, and that's one meal plan, and then there's an issue with it, or you don't enjoy it, and whatever, and then you're kind of stuck. Whereas this, we're trying to be like, all right, well, we want each week, maybe if you want different meals, you can. In the future, we want to try and add things that can learn on your behaviors and recommend meals even better. So these are all, again, like I've got this huge list of things that we want to make it better, but obviously just getting out there and getting that, what we get, the MVP, the minimum viable product, get that out into the market and start getting user feedback, because we've already had feedback from people being like, I would like it to do this or this. And then like, you're like, all right, what are the ones that just keep popping up? The things that people keep requesting. That's probably somewhere that we need to explore or look and tweak in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. And I like the idea of, if you want to, let's say, lose weight or whatever, I think you don't need to just do the chicken and rice anymore. We're
Mm,
escaping from that world. And that's what I appreciate about the app like this is, you have a bunch of vibrant options in that
yeah.
regard, and you can kind of pick and choose and swap out. So I think like that's very important to realize, because I think too sometimes like in people's mindsets when they're not in the health and fitness space, they probably think still that, you need to eat bland food
Yeah.
a lot of the times, right? Which you don't. And I think like the fact that this app gives people again vibrant options is appealing as well,
Mm,
because we're living in such a different world these days. And even with social media, like there's the opportunity to educate people that they
yeah.
can eat, more vibrantly or differently in that way too. So I think that's probably a gap where the app kind of fills
Yeah.
as well.
And I think like it's important because there's like obviously like there's the two sides to that still, where like by some people go, oh, I can eat whatever, and it's like, oh, okay, there still is more to
Yeah.
food than just a calorie.
Yeah.
Like, and I think so we all get it, calorie deficit, what,
Mm.
everyone gets that now. And I think so, information has become like almost not really a thing too much in the fitness industry anymore, because we're all so informed about, we all know what it takes, whatever. So this is more like, all right, well now you need someone to hold your hand almost, and this is that sort of thing. But we're still trying to be careful that we don't just load this with lots of like recipes that are, lots of sweeteners or whatever. Like, sure, there's some of that. We got sugar-free maple syrups in some of those sort of things because that's just the wise decision to swap that rather than having 200 calories of maple syrup. But it's still about, all right, let's make sure we're getting some veg in there. Let's make sure we're getting plenty of protein, and we're just trying to get a lot of whole foods. And so there's still that at the core. But it's understanding that your wheat bix can have some honey on it with some fruit, and it can taste half decent. It doesn't have to be just purely plain. But there's people that will react to certain of the. I know quite a few people that react to some of those like ultra processed alternatives, and their gut doesn't enjoy it. And it's like, so yeah, there's probably something there that a lot of people are saying. So it's like we can't go too far that way. And like you see, I don't know, some like accounts you see online, and they're like everything's the lower calorie version. I still look at it, I'm like, trust me, I feel like I'd eat that and my guts are going to hate me still. So it's hard to then obviously have that variety and provide that variety. But that's all what, in the back end, how you can try and, create these rules around some of the recipes based on their tags and whatever to provide the best, service possible that also looks at health more than just a calorie, which it is.
And I like that point that you made, that it's kind of like holding someone's hand, or, I think too, a lot of people like being told what to do when it comes to this kind of stuff. I'm that way as well. I
Mm,
hate cooking. I hate meal planning, all of that kind of
yeah.
stuff. Even when it comes like a few episodes when we had Ollie on and a bunch of other trainers, like, I think it's important to have a coach in that regard as well. Like, it
Yeah.
keeps you accountable. It helps you progress, and like, you really are saving time. Again, we're talking about everybody thinking that they're so busy these days. It saves you time at the end of the day. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to sit down for, even if it's 30 minutes to plan your week. That's 30 minutes that you can take back,
Mm,
And I think people, that's one thing, is I think like time is money these days, and people will use something if it saves time
yeah.
a lot of the
Yeah.
times. I'll subscribe to meal services if it saves me time. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really care about the money at the end of the day, because I'm getting like 30, 60 minutes of my day back, which
Yeah.
is important, I think, for a lot of
But that's it.
people.
You can see it in a, and there's also just lots of different services that will facilitate different people in different ways. Like, so some people might be like, yeah, I simply can't afford a meal service. They're like, okay, well maybe I can afford this, the Inject Fit app, $6.90. I can meal prep, and within that, like you said, less food waste. They can, because they're only buying what they need. So they're actually saving money, and they get their achieve their goals. Or other people again go, I don't even want to do that. I want the free MyFitnessPal, and that's fine. That's why businesses do well, because there's something for everyone. And so you're not trying to please everyone. You're trying to find that person that you want to facilitate and help. And if that so happens that this is the best option for them, that's the best option for them. Then there's other people that have the money to go train with a PT 4 times a week and have a nutritionist and pay for it all full price, and or maybe they just don't cook at all and they completely have it. I've in the past done podcasts with guys that just have a chef come in and cook for them every night. I'm like, that now that's another level again, but it's a thing. And there's products for everyone, and that's why that chef has a job, because there's people with enough money to afford that, and that's why the chef at My Muscle Chef has a job, because there's people that will just want to buy frozen meals, and so it's just you can't please everyone, but you find a market and you stick in it.
How have you built resilience over the years, to get you to this point now? Because I think to go through an experience like you have, or experiences, I should say, with building something like this, you need to have resilience, right? Otherwise, like you've said many times, you could just stop.
Mm.
Something will come. You need to throw out more money, or you're extending something for 6 months or whatever it might be. I think that requires a lot of resilience. What has shaped your resilience experience to kind of get you through these hurdles?
Definitely early age sport. Like, that's, I think, anyone that's done sport, and again, you don't have to have done it at a high level. Again, like I've done it at a decent level, still not professional. Um, but you learn a lot about yourself, and especially I find, like, because I've done team sports and individual sports, but the individual sport is kind of like, it's on you. On a field, you can hide. If you're having a bad day, I can kind of just like get rid of the ball quickly or whatever it may be, or you can slack off a little bit, just play a bit more defense. So I'm not so into it, but the coach is still happy because I'm on defense. When I'm out there and I'm throwing a javelin or whatever, I'm like, if it doesn't go far, I can't look at you and blame you. That's me. And so, like, I expose myself to that. It's on you. You're the only one that's able to make this go well. Not your coach, not your friends, not your family, no one. you. You know, I can't blame the other competitor for doing well or doing bad. Me. That's just it is what it is. So that definitely starts it. But then, you don't you're not given resilience. You're not given any of those things. You learn them and you adapt to them over time. So what I'm able to now get through is a lot more than what I used to be able to get through. And it's like similar for people that go from owning one business to five. If you went from 0 to 5, you'd be fucked. But when they go from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3, 4, 5, they build that ability to be the person that can manage their time. They can hire people. They can do all these sort of things. So I think it's just that constant going through, and you learn and adapt to that as well. Part of it comes from if you just really want it bad enough. Like, so that I think has to be the underlying factor. Like, I don't think I'm the most disciplined person. There's plenty of days where I stare at my screen and then I pull out my phone and I scroll TikTok for 20 minutes and then I get pissed off at myself, like properly. I'm like, you're a fucking, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're wasting time. But like some days you're just not working. You can't. Brain's not on. Like I can drink 4 coffees and I still stare at the screen because you maybe sleeps off or whatever it is. But the next day it's just like playing that card, whatever you can do, and you're the underlying. I really want this. Partly, sometimes I even wonder it's not even just that I want it; it's I feel like I have to do it. A psychologist could probably sit in here and say that's extremely unhealthy. I'm like, I don't care. It's just I'm doing it. So I think that's part of it, and I don't know whether that's external pressure from someone would be like, oh, look at your child or look at whatever it may be. Maybe it's just what I see on social media, but I don't know. I've always been wanted to achieve high, even in things that I didn't enjoy doing. Like wasn't a huge fan of having to do my maths assignment, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it a crack. All right. Even if it's the night before, when I'm in doing something, I'm 100%.
Yeah. I wonder if athletes or, people that have played sport, individual sport, because I think it's very common for people who play individual sport, like you were saying, like everything's on you. You don't have anybody else to either blame, but also fall on if you make a mistake or whatnot. And I just wonder if, like, those people that have those experiences are more likely down the road to, continue with things on their own, if you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like starting a business by themselves or, working independently or whatever. Because I think, again, like, I don't know, there's probably pros and cons to both.
Mhm.
Like, it's great having a team, and of course, you need a team to, of course, build something like what you're building, and even things that I've done. You can't do it all
No.
by yourself, right? But at the same time, like, you need to get that resilience or have that mindset of, well, if anything goes wrong, it does fall on me
Yeah.
as well. What kind of things, like, in the past have you had to kind of get over, and get through, I would say, that that you've learned so that you don't have to kind of like experience those things throughout this whole journey? So what kind of things have you experienced in the past that have come up, let's say, through building this app, that you're like, oh, that's happened as well? I already have that skill.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, like, say, if you strip it back even further, I didn't learn from this business itself as content creation. I've been making videos since I was like 17. That's very handy in this day and age to be able to not have to, outsource that where need be. So at the moment, I do all of that myself. So, and again, like you said, independence can be, a bit of a killer as well. So if I hold on to things for too long, that'll be a bad thing. But I also like to have some, I would say, like, the jack of all trades sort of quote, but I'll butcher whatever it is that's left out, but everyone says that quotes and actually like leaves out the final piece. And so like I can't remember who said it. And I really like they kind of twisted it again. It was like jack of all trades, master of none, and they were kind of like unless you own a business. And I was kind of like, yeah, I can relate to that because like if you're like not across the board or like I said, bootstrapping from early days, yeah, you have to be everyone. I'm the accountant, I'm the creative, I'm the app page designer. The only thing really the only thing I don't do is write the code. But I say what I want it to do. So I still have to come up with that, and they go, yep, no worries, we can do that. Or then they can be like, oh, that might not be possible. We need to do this. But for the most part, I have to be across the board and do everything. I had to learn about trademarking, even though I still had to get a lawyer to help me with that. I was like, I don't get it. I need to get it. You need to understand it. Like, so, because if something's wrong, like, you need to kind of be like, well, hang on a second, pull people up on those things or challenge that. So, um, yeah, I don't know if that exactly answers the question, but it's like along the like you just have to you gradually learn the skills that you require, and if you really want to do it, like right now, we haven't started like paid advertising just yet, but I've never really run Facebook ads before or any really advertising at all paid wise, and so I'm diving all the way in. Like again, use ChatGPT, kind of set that up like as my co-founder, set a project up in there, give it all these instructions, and you can really bounce ideas off of it. And so like using that to assist me in setting up campaigns and linking, the different links so we can actually track how many people from that ad came from that sign up came from this ad, or how many, and maybe that ad is just causing a lot of free trials and no one subscribes. So we should probably cancel that. And so learning that now ahead of time. Now I'm going to launch those ads and they're not going to be the best thing in the world, but I'll continue to get better. And then hopefully in maybe 6 months time, then it's at the stage where I handball that job onto someone else or something. There'll be other jobs that you can't do at all. And I think, yeah, it's just you do it on the go.
What does the marketing world look like for you now? Like, where do you think it's going, and what avenues do you think you're going to use? Because I think even marketing's changed. Like, you can use social media, you can use audio, you can use video. It's very different than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
What does the marketing world look like for you, and how do you think you're going to scope it?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess just like starting the app, I'm guessing it's a complete guess. I could market in particular ways and it'd just be an absolute shit show, make nothing, spend loads of money and get no returns. So I think these days, from my very small understanding, but from my, want is that I need to talk a little bit closer to the customer. So, I'm not going to try and advertise in the back of a bus. That's a shotgun approach. I have no idea who I'm hitting. Advertising in a gym might be a slightly different story, which is potentially something we will do, because again, it's a health and fitness space. So as much as sure, I don't know who's walking in front of those screens in a gym or whatever it may be, they're in a health club, so they're probably investing in their health. There's a high chance they're there to lose weight, because that's the majority of people that go to the gym, lose weight or just build some muscle or whatever, and you go, all right, tick tick tick, we can help those. So that's a good place to be. But then definitely like Facebook advertising, and just the way that Facebook has the most, well, Meta has pretty much probably the most data out of those ads. So and that's where everyone spends their time. So as much as it's kind of like shit to feel like you're just putting more slop into the machine, we hope that it's not slop, because at the end of the day we're actually trying to put something good out and help people. Like, I'm not trying to sell a fidget spinner or some bullshit sort of get quick, lose weight quick scheme or whatever. Like, this is something we believe is a long-term solution and will continue to help people. So, that reduces that. I feel like a dickhead for doing this as well. So, I think Meta is definitely going to be one of the biggest places to spend the money. And yeah, so there's probably, and then within health clubs potentially.
All right, I want to talk to you about sunglasses made for runners by runners. That's why I wear Your Run sunglasses. Lightweight, zero bounce, and they stay locked in even when you are sweating through speed sessions, long runs, out in the sun, whatever it might be. They are stylish enough for daily wear, durable enough for race day, and just the perfect combo. Honestly, I love brands that get the sport, get the grind, and support the running community, not just the podium finishers. If you're serious about your run gear and want shades that perform as hard as you, go check out Your Run. Use my code Jordan10 to save some money and get yourself some stylish sunnies that actually perform and look good. Run smart, stay protected, look good doing it with Your Run sunnies.
As well.
Yeah, to the person listening right now, who might want to start something, let's say that they're just in the idea space right now. What skills do you recommend that they really fine tune to actually start something, sorry, and like continue with it? Like I understand resilience is important and everything, but I think too, like we've discussed this many times with many guests on this podcast. Like, at the end of the day, yes, you just have to start, and yeah, there's other things that you have to. But what, I guess, skills specifically do you think people need to have when they want to start something? Like, if the person listening is wanting to start something, how do they go about that, would you say?
Uh, I probably wouldn't even put it down to skills as much. I'd probably put it down to personality. um, just being good at being people first. Like whether that may not be your customer, could just be the people that you decide. Like for me, the developers. Don't be a dick. Be nice to people. Like and actually learn to be like, how can we? It's mutually beneficial. Sure, I'm paying you. You're giving me something. That doesn't mean I have to be like, do this, do this, do this, do this. Like, learn to be a good human, learn to be a good communicator. Yeah, sometimes you got to put the foot down. That's leadership, and you got to kind of be like, this is unacceptable. But you don't have to be, a proper dickhead about it. You can actually start to like talk to people like a human being. And yeah, some people do enjoy getting the boot up the ass. Like I don't know, I'm more than happy for people to spray me. That kind of gets me going. I'm ready to go. But it's learning those people. So I actually think people skills is probably the most important thing, but that's just from personal experience. There's a lot of people that probably start very successful businesses that have zero people skills. What you have to do is look at someone like, I don't know, like an Elon Musk or something, like barely can hold a proper conversation and he's all over the place. And so there's definitely a world where you don't have to do that. But from my experience and a lot of that has helped come from personal training, like the ability to develop communication skills to adjust based on who you're talking to. That's not lying about who you are, and a lot of people will be like, "Oh no, I'm just being myself." I'm like, "No, no, you're just being an asshole." Like there's you actually do have to change your tone and how you speak and the conversations you're having, your body language and whatever, depending on who you're talking to. Like I don't need to be the biggest in the room, like ego wise. That's fine. I don't care. I'm more than happy for you to feel like you're the one. That's good because if that is that, then you do the most and you get the most out of your day and you do all those things. Cool. Like that's half my job is trying to like toot people's horn as a PT to be like, no, you are the one. Like, let's do it. Like, and so I think it's less about skills. You can learn skills, anyone can, and you don't really know what the skills that are going to be required in 6 months' time because of AI and everything's moving so quickly. So I think it's more about the person you are and kind of like looking internal. And maybe that means you got to go see a psych or whatever it is, or just sit down with someone that you can take proper advice from and be like, where do I suck? Because if you can't look at what you suck at, you're going to really struggle with anything, especially business or especially high performance in any way, shape, or form, because it requires you to check yourself every single day and be like, yeah, maybe I'm not that good at that, or maybe I'm not, as efficient at something as, and I'm not doing it the right way, and I could be better. And that's fine if you put that shield up first. I can wholeheartedly say I always shield up. Like that's the first thing. If someone, but it also depends how it's communicated. But I'll be like, no, I'm definitely not that bad at it, and I'll go home and be like, no, I'm pretty bad at that. But then I'll come and I'll work on it. So I think no matter how you get there, sure, that could be done better. You just got to be able to look internal and be like, yeah, I can get better.
Yeah. I love that point. Like, I think if you're even doing something like, you're not directly with the app, you're not directly working like you would PT, right? Person to person, but you still need to, like you're saying, be good with people. Not necessarily be good with people, but be conscious about your tone, be conscious about, the fact that again, yes, you are hiring other people to work with in a
Mm.
sense. And if you want a good product, like you can't really, like you were saying, be crap to other people. Like you
No.
have to treat people with respect. And I think like that's where a lot of people go wrong in the sense like, they're thinking, oh, I'm gonna work for myself. But again, like it's very rarely that you're always going to be by yourself. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like chances are there's going to be somebody around you. And I think like you were saying, reflection is key. You need to kind of reflect and learn where you need to go to get to that point.
Mm.
And it's hard for some people. I totally understand. Some people might be, I don't know, quiet or anxious or whatever, but having that reflection and trying to get over that, I think is super important. How do you reflect and how do you kind of learn to or learn, I guess,
Mm.
in a way? Yeah.
I think it probably for me starts. I think I have more that like I like to please people a little bit tendency. So if I have an encounter with someone, I'm pretty quick at like I can read emotions fairly well and be like, they're walking off in a different way than they usually walk off. I think I said something I shouldn't have said there, or maybe. And again, sometimes I'm like, sure, I could look and be like, you're just being soft, but it doesn't help anyone. I'm still going to look internal. Hopefully, then they look internal and be like, if I go like, I'm sorry, I should maybe came across the wrong way, and then go, yeah, look, I'm also being soft, and you go, how good's that? Mutual. Like there's ways of doing it, and so some people don't read emotional cues that well, or they're not very personable. I think again, part of that and I've said it before to people. I'm like, if you're unsure what to do and you're like 18, just become a PT or something like that, because you learn so much about people, communication. Again, I learned how to operate a small business in a way, and debits and taking care of payments and accounting and all those sort of things. It's a good place to start with, but just try and learn like people and be okay with like reading people a little bit. Like you can pretty easily see if someone like stiffens up or does all those sort of things. So they're good signs. Um, and you can obviously, as a good leader, then that would come into, and maybe some of this was helped by captaining a lot of sports teams when I was younger, club, all those sort of things. That helps, and understanding like it's a team, and a team still has people that you I guess you work under, as per se. It's not the best way of saying it, but like a sports team still has a coach. They're still a part of the team, but they are the coach. They are the leader. Um, so it's still that semi hierarchy feeling, I think, is like still important, because then people feel like they have someone they can lean on still. Um, because that's kind of like that, this is the wiser person, whatever. But at the same time, they don't have it all figured out either. So I think it's important for all of that. Yeah.
That's interesting. What does leadership mean to you? Because I think, like, as a founder, as somebody who's building the app, you are essentially a leader of the project, right? You have people that, are helping you kind of get this goal or this end result. What does leadership mean to you when it comes to entrepreneurship and business?
I think it's just about getting the most out of people. And again, not just business. That I really relate to that way more than in sports teams than doing business, because the people I deal with for work, I deal with through a computer screen. Like I don't really have one-on-one contact with a lot of these people. It's just online meetings, and so sure, I see a face and all those sort of things, but it's still not quite the same. Whereas like I think back to playing like volleyball or whatever it may be, and you're captaining of that team, and like someone's like having a real shit time. It's like just quickly pull them aside, or it's the little comment you make. You're like, I've seen you do this before. You're fun. You don't have to tell them their life story and razz them up that much. You just be like, look, dude, 2 weeks ago you were like, just do, you can do it, and they're like, yeah, and they get one. And like I said about the golf thing, it takes one, and then they're in. It completely changes everything. So I think to me, not knowing leadership fully within a business, but as where I stand right now, it is just about getting the most out of people, and it's not about you being above other people. Like I said before, I'm okay with being like, you feel like your ego or whatever it is bigger and better, and that's totally fine. I don't couldn't care less. I don't need to be the coolest or the biggest or the one that everyone goes, oh, look at that. I'm like, no. I want you to feel like you're the shit. You're doing really well.
Yeah. Where is like so what are you working on now when it comes to like the app is launched and you're working at the kinks or you're kind of I guess evolving it in a sense. Where are you wanting to go with it going forwards?
Like in terms of the actual like app itself and what it would like look like, or just the next step sort of thing.
I think the next step.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's definitely now, again, we have to fixing out those few bugs, errors, kinks, and whatever, and then it becomes marketing. No matter how good the product is, if they don't know it exists, means fuck all. So, that's definitely the major next step. It's like, which comes into obviously, how do we position this and what do people want to feel when they are attached to the brand? And so, there's a lot of brands, obviously, Gymshark does it extremely well. Everyone wanted to be a Gymshark athlete. It's like, oh, well, what do they do there? Like a little bit different, because I'm not giving you a t-shirt and that's not something you walk. So I'm like, how do I make people kind of feel like that when they use the app? Like they want to use my app and maybe tell people that that's what they're using. And it's like, like I said, with that leadership, I want to toot their horn while they're having this experience. I want them to feel like, and a big part of that comes just results. Like we had a guy and he's used the app and he's lost like 10 kilos in like 5 weeks. And you're like, yeah, he's feeling pretty good right now. So he's more than happy to kind of be up on socials and like sharing things. It's like, so at the end of that, I don't feel bad necessarily saying like, you know, there's always a reason for it in business. Obviously, I need to get users. We need to make money. No one's denying that. That's just the world we live in. That is what it is. But how I do that is through actually helping people, so it feels pretty good. So if I get someone to the stage where they're more than happy to share their journey, and that obviously helps other people want to use the app, well, that means I've actually changed their life and they've lost weight. They're feeling a lot better, and we go from there. We help more people. So I think it's that a big thing is positioning. Like I know where I'm going to do it. It's paid advertising. It might be maybe TikTok as well, but definitely Meta at first. But it's like, what do we want them to see and feel? And so that comes down to the creatives that we put out, which again, you can kind of tell the kind of theme we're going by just based on the organic content that we've, 20 odd posts, whatever by now, pretty fresh, pretty new. But it would be similar to along those lines.
What does community mean, and how are you going to pick and choose? Because I think too that's something where a lot of people go wrong in the beginning with brands is they launch and then they try to address this wide scale community, and
Mm,
that's not always, I think, great in the sense because like I guess there's pluses and negatives, right? Sometimes you hear the advice that, oh, you want to be niche in the beginning, but then other times you want to go wide scale. How
yeah.
are you picking and choosing? Because I think a point you made like is quite interesting to me. You said, you've had a user, he's lost a bunch of weight in 5 weeks. But if I think back to like how I use the app, for me it's more so like I put in don't want to gain weight, don't want to lose weight, endurance runner, I'm fine with where I am,
Mm,
right? So for me, it's more so that ease of like I don't want to plan my meals. I don't want to
yeah,
So I think like people are using it for different reasons,
definitely.
of course. How are you going to pick and choose, what community you want to get into in the
Mm.
beginning?
So that massively, I guess. So your social media page, and I've thought about how maybe like we get to a stage with social media that different businesses have different pages based on the sort of demographic. Like, and brands probably like they do already do this, like Nike Running. It's a separate page to the actual Nike page. So businesses already do that. So it's nothing new. It's nothing special. It's nothing you walk away and go, oh wow, that's crazy. But it's like, all right, that's probably a thing in some ways. But then at the start, again, with the volume I have available, I don't have the team Nike has to run that marketing. It's like, well, our paid advertising, you can do the same thing. And so I did a lot of research into like AG1, like the athletic greens. Again, whether people like it as a business or not, they're very good at marketing, so you can learn a lot from it. And you look at their because it's you can see what campaigns people have running. It's public knowledge. You can just go onto Meta and you can search up AG1, and I can see exactly what they're doing. And they run the same ad, with the same template of ad as per se, just targeted at different people. There's one for tennis, golf, swimming, running, whatever, and it's the same sort of thing. So it's like, all right, so the messaging just becomes different, and the value people are getting from the app is different. And so it's not that the app is made for a specific niche; it's that the marketing goes to a specific niche. So in the messaging that we'll have on the advertising is I'm talking to you. This ad over here talks to them. So when I receive it, when you receive it for the maintenance goal, and you're wanting it for make meal plan easy and doing all those sort of things, it's like, what if you only had to spend half an hour in the kitchen each week and you had barely any dishes? You'd be like, bang, that's awesome. Whereas someone else might be like, do you want to lose weight in just 30 minutes each week? So like you can have the same thing, but you're just twisting how you're talking to different people. Or like, if I said like, imagine never having to like lift a weight in your life and lose 10 kilos. That's person over there. So it's all just different messaging. It's the same app. It's just how you use it is slightly different, and your goal, because even the five people that want to lose weight, it might be different messaging to each person. It could be because they do Pilates, they don't like doing any exercise, and they love going to the gym. So the messaging might be like, getting your something to do with like building your glutes for a female while leaning down or something like that. Very different messaging to the Pilates person, or they might have a bit of crossover and saying get ready for summer or something like that. It's just messaging, and I think it's figuring out that. It's the beauty of now from what I've heard from like a lot of the high level agencies that I look at their content and all these sort of things is like for the most part, Facebook is pretty good at figuring out where that needs to go. You make the creative, and they pretty much can take care of almost the rest at the moment. You can still edit it yourself, and I'm going to play around with a bit of both and just see what performs better. But again, I don't like my chances of outperforming Meta and their AI tools over my knowledge of running Facebook ads. So right now, it just probably feels like the best thing to do is get the creatives, have my rough campaigns, and the people, even people say that Meta ads like pick up on the color that's in the ad and send it to a specific person based on that. I can't have that level in my head of like even like that's even the psychographics of a certain person. They have that, I don't, and they don't even think about it. It just happens.
Yeah. And I love that answer because I think we like individuality. Like we like like I know the person listening right now, your goal is probably different to my goal, to Jordan's goal. You know, everybody has a different goal, everybody has a different reason or a different why,
Yeah.
basically. So I quite like that answer because I think you can put out this, and I see through my Instagram or through Facebook or whatever all the time, like cookie cutter ads
Mm.
that, you know, oh, do you want to lose weight? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, no, I don't. Like,
Yeah.
first of all, why is it coming to
I just
me
wasted
on
so
mine?
much money on you.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But like if it was like a specific ad to me, like if the business did have a few different options, I think
Yeah.
that's a bit more strategic because we all have our own whys. And again, we all like to be talked to directly,
Mm,
not like on this generalized approach, basically.
mm.
Um,
Sorry, which I'll just jump in there. Like
yeah.
it's you don't need, sometimes like what you tell people as well. Like you could sit here and like what you just said to me could be like I trust that you're fairly honest, but that may not be actually what you want to hear from an ad. Like, but our algorithms know what we want. Like, I don't know about you, but I go on my thing and all I see is like horses, farms, golf, and all this. And I'm like, this is exactly what I want to see. Like, so that is pretty true to what I tell most people. But there's plenty of people that their algorithm is not what they tell most people. So, once again, allowing the Facebook, the meta world to find that and to talk to you, it's based on your interactions with your device still. So there's nothing probably more real than, and that's why that probably we back to the thing we said right at the start on the issue with like we are in our own opinions so much is because we live in these social media echo chambers where like you just get regurgitated content of what you believe and no one really challenges those beliefs. So you just think you are right all the time and you never really see the other sides, not just one side, there's multiple sides. And so, yeah, the same way that happens is the same way that, you will probably tell these apps what advertising you want and they get really good at giving it to you.
Mm,
And, someone's going to go, oh, peak capitalism, it's
yeah.
awful. And say, yeah, but, at the same time, like, if I want to lose weight and there's an app that's telling me I can, I'm like, cool. That's
Mm.
why would I complain about that?
Yeah, exactly. What does and I hate like getting into the specifics because I think it's gonna look different for every business and for everybody. But I guess like what does it take when you look back to the journey of you starting this to where you are now? What did it take when it comes to like hours and the work to put in to for something like this? Because I think too like um it can be like a catch take, right? Some people think of it back and think like, oh, I need to be spending every time my eyes open, be working. You know what I mean? Whereas like others are really into balance and understand the importance of balance. And like you were saying earlier, like going for golf with friends or things like
Mm.
that. So what did the hours and what did your days, I guess, look like throughout this journey?
Yeah, lots.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, like it's not, I don't know, I don't want to like, and that's why at the start I didn't want to like the few things I said around like it being extremely challenging. I didn't want to like sugarcoat business as well. Um, and I don't want to just people to believe that they just have to be this like grind hustle culture as well, because like you see, like that also can kill you. Like if you're just not never sleeping, it's not to say you can't have the odd night that you don't sleep and you work longer and you do all that, but I also like not everyone has the same brain that just doesn't switch off and they want it. Like when if someone works a job for someone else and they go home and they're like, see you later. Like I don't have that. It's not, I've never really had that because whether it was for sport that I couldn't sleep because I was assessing my technique or whatever it is, like it's always there. But yeah, I mean, for the last 3 years, like I've every day spent multiple hours not making any money, just spending money and learning skills and trying to work on these sort of things. So, yeah, I say I go play golf, but for the 4 hours I'm there, my brain still spins and I'll pull out my phone and have to write a few things down or go through a few things. But I try and use the golf because I'm like, I need to be present. I need to learn that as well because that's a useful skill for business. Because the things I want to add to the app, well, they're not there yet. I need to focus on now still. Like that's what's really important. Today's challenges, as much as still having in the back of the mind where I want to get to moving forward. But that's not set in stone. Today needs to happen today. So I think there's that. And so yeah, like it's a lot. It takes a lot more time than you probably think. And like I said, it's not necessarily that I expected it to not be hard. It's just I didn't expect it to take this long. And so now I'm actually even from the last time we spoke, which was probably just 12 months ago, maybe a little bit more than that. Like my mindset around everything is completely different. If anything, I have almost de-stressed a little bit just to increase stress in other areas, but like you de-stress in terms of like the pressure I put on myself for some of these deadlines. I'm like, yeah, such is life. This is what it is sometimes. Like it is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and like with some of those bugs that have popped up when we just kind of soft launch. The first couple of days, I'm like, fuck this. I was ready to like just go crazy. I was like, I've spent 3 years just for this thing to not fully work. I was really pissed. And I was like, yep, look, you can be pissed or you can just let's work and figure it out. Like, so I think that was that moment and you're going to ride those waves. But I was like, it's, like, yeah, it's hard, but like, there's still things to be done. So I just had to be like, put those, not the emotions to the side, but maybe come back to them later. And in this current moment, let's just have a conversation with the team and be like, all right, well, this is what we need to do. All right, this is broken. Let's fix it. So yeah, like it's hard. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of hours.
Hmm. What things did, like, for the listener right now, if that listener is an entrepreneur, a businessman or an inspiring one, what are some things that people don't get told? Because I think, like, we all know that business is going to be hard. We all know that, like, things are going to come up.
Mhm.
You're going to have deadlines, stuff like that. But what's something that, like, you weren't told that that now that you didn't, like, even going back to before you were a PT, because when
Mhm.
you're a PT, you're basically a business owner
Yeah.
yourself.
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know whether you kind of probably said it in there as well, but like it won't go as planned. Just, but it's not going to go as planned. Like what you think's going to happen, it won't happen. That doesn't mean don't try and have a plan, but just accept it's not going to be what you thought it was going to be. It could be better. It could be worse. It could just be simply different. That's fine. That's life. Like, you meet someone, you go on a first date with someone, you're like, oh my God, look how hot that is. This is going to be the best thing ever. And then you're just like, I can't stand them. I can't stand them. Like, yeah, like it didn't go as planned. Like you created this thought in your head, but like, you don't know, like there's no reality to it. Like I said, this was my first time building an app. So what I planned was a pure guess, a pure guess. What I think the marketing is going to do and what I just said then could be absolute crock of shit and just fall apart and only work, not work for me. Or maybe I just don't do it well. It might not go as planned. Like in your head, you think I'm going to launch this app. We're going to get like 10,000 users. And in the first like 12 months, someone's going to offer me this big lump of cash and I'm going to sell that. And I'm going to buy my farm. And I'm like, that's not going to, that's not happening. Like, not that again, I think I said to you last time, my plan is not to sell like instantly. The business is made so I could, but I really enjoy it. I want to continue to grow this and see what I can and, build it into something quite special that can help a lot of people. But yeah, nothing's going to go as planned.
And I think the concept of deadlines is quite interesting as well. Like, you made that point earlier on. Like, I think too, we're so used to, whether it's through school or uni or whatever, like a deadline of everything. But, things are going to come up. Like you were saying, things aren't going to go as planned, and you're going to have to maybe, switch a deadline or switch,
Yeah.
the end date, or things that come up. Like, yes, it's important to maybe have like an estimated time that you want to complete something,
Mm.
but if you're not flexible, and I think, like, again, if you go back, I was in uni for like 7 years. That's
Mm.
what you have to physio.
It's a
Like,
long time.
yeah, I know, right? And like, you don't really have the option of like extending. The date's the date for when you have an exam or when you have to like hand in your paper, whatever. Whereas I think in the business space or the real world, it looks very different. Like,
Definitely.
you can't, you have to be flexible. Like, if you're not flexible, then really, I think, like, you're not going to make it in that whole space, in that world.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's important. Like, I don't know. Um, I work really well on just doing things last minute. Some people say that's just awful. I've done it my whole schooling. Someone's going to label that as something ADHD or what. I don't care. It is what it is. I'm just going to do it. I don't give a shit what label it is. I'm like, every English assignment, I would hand it in late or then the day of because I did it right at the last minute and walked away with A's or whatever. And you're like, I don't know. It's just that's how I work well. So I, the hard part is you have to learn that like that's not always how you can do it because if there's other people relying on you, but yeah, deadlines work. Like there's no doubt about it. But they don't always stay the deadline. Like the deadline just moves sometimes. Um, you know, Deadline for smaller tasks and like things that are the short term stuff, you could probably stick with those because they're kind of daily things, weekly things, whatever. You could probably be pretty close with it. Launching an app, you go, there's a lot of deadlines within that, hundreds, thousands, whatever. And so I think probably the smaller It's about breaking it down into the smaller tasks so you can set deadlines to those small things. It's like, I need this video done by then. I need this email sent by then. And, there's deadlines there. Whereas I'm not putting a deadline on when the trademark's ready because that trademark relied on other people that I had no control over. But my emails that I had to send or my work that I had to do and documents and whatever I had to put together, I can put deadlines on those. It's within my control. And so I think there's definitely a time and a place. But I think we're taught so much about, putting these strict, harsh deadlines. But like you said, all it takes is something to not go quite to plan and you have to pivot. Don't beat yourself up that you didn't get done by the deadline. Just accept that is what it is. Let's set a new one. Let's set a new target goal. Because athletes, you don't just get to move the grand final date. There's a deadline. We got to be ready by then. So that's still the real world in a sense, but I think you just break it down into like smaller pieces rather than this big, large deadline.
Yeah. What are some tools like for the person that's listening right now that is on the journey of starting something or they have, what are some actual like physical tools that you recommend? Like if the person listening is stressed about costs and things like that when it comes to content creation, posting, marketing, that kind of whole
Mm.
thing, or even just creating an app, what are some strategies or what are some actual tools that you've learned to help cut costs for that person who's starting up?
Um, yeah, look, at a baseline as well, it probably comes back to like just don't quit your 9 to 5. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Like, sure, you'll have less time, but if you really want it, you'll work in the evenings, you work the weekends, you put in some of those shifts. Like, that's been the savior for me. Like, the amount of times I'm like, all right, maybe I stop PTing now, put more time. Like, I'd be screwed. I need that income. Like I said, like, I'm breaking every week. You're just breaking even. Like, I'm just even. There's plenty of weeks where you just see a dip and you're like, oh shit, didn't expect that bill, and now I'm losing money. On like total life, not just on the business, because the business has lost money for every single minute it's been a thing and a thought. So I think that's an important lesson. Like, a lot of people say, oh, well, you're not all in. I'm like, no, I don't have a choice. Like, I don't have $1 million sitting there. I don't have someone handing me cash or whatever. Like, this is the reality, is I have to work, and I'm just going to do both. And that's fine. And I'll do that until I need to. And when I no longer need to and the business starts making money and I can pick up more hours doing that, I will, sure. But like, that's not the reality for most people. Like, because business does cost money in a lot of cases. Sure, I didn't pick the cheapest business route to start either, an app and the development and whatever. There's e-com that you could definitely start for a lot cheaper, selling products that you don't have to pay up front any money. You just pay for some Facebook ads, do your website, do all that. And it's just, as soon as someone buys it, your store then buys it from the company in China, and then they rebrand it and send it to the person. So there is ways of doing business that doesn't require you to put massive tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars up front. There's definitely those sort of businesses as well. But I think it's more important to then, I don't know, not necessarily try and like cut costs, because you just have to be wise with your spending regardless. Like, I think that's just the crux of it all. Like, we would understand that. Like, don't spend stupid. Analyze. All right, is it what's more important, this or that? Because there's plenty of those options. You're like, no, that has to go. Like, I had to stop working with my advisor because I was like, that expense is now become too much. I need to put more money into development. I'm really grateful. I've learned, it's nothing personal. I've learned a lot from you and all those sort of things. But yeah, this is the next step. And hope to maybe come back to working with her in the future or someone else or whatever it may be. But you're constantly shuffling and jiggling those sort of things. I think for me, it's just also like, in terms of efficiency, my brain, if I don't, I've got Google Tasks. If I don't have, if it's not in Google Tasks, it doesn't exist. If it's not in my calendar, it doesn't exist. Like, I have to apologize to people sometimes. I'm like, it's not that I don't care. Like, I've forgotten to rock up to certain things, or you forget, oh shit, it's 7 o'clock and I need to be there at 7:10. And I'm like, it's not because, sure, someone will be like, if you really cared, you would have, whatever. But like, the same thing happens for all aspects of my life, unfortunately. And you try and work on that. And this Google Task and Google calendar thing has helped me massively. Like, I'll put it out. There was one year that I forgot to like send my dad a happy birthday message. And like, I saw him at like athletics one day. I'm like, hey, what's going on, Dad? Whatever. And then later that night, I was like, did you forget something? I'm like, oh shit. And like, and again, it's not because I don't like care for my dad. I love my dad. It's nothing to do with that. But it was like moments like that. You're like, I need to be better. So you might struggle with something, or someone goes, I got ADHD. I'm like, yeah, cool. But there's still things you can do to get better at it. And that's, so the task thing, like, I'll be mid PT, they'll be like, can we, da da da, and I'll be like, 2 seconds, just got to write it down. If I don't write it down, like, it's See you later. So you just learn what works best for you. And I think all of those sort of things together there will help you to be more efficient and save money and like keep the balance of the costs.
I love that answer too. Like I love I think too, like thinking of it in the sense like don't spend above your means, and that goes in life as well, you know?
100%.
And like you only need what you need in the beginning. Like I just finished the Victoria Beckham documentary on Netflix, and that was very interesting because it was about her business and all about like, you know, her being super into debt, coming out of debt. And I think like a key message from that documentary was don't spend what you don't need,
Yeah.
you know, like
Or what you don't have.
exactly,
Don't
what you
max the
don't
credit
have,
cards
right?
out.
Like I think too, like we've had people on this podcast, you know, business owners who, you know, have said that they've taken out a business loan and whatnot, and you're in the negative. But I think even then, like if you're in the negative, you have this credit card or this business card, like again, you don't need to spend it on things that don't make sense. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Um,
It's still strategic. Like,
mm.
still have a thought behind why you're spending.
Yeah, yeah. And I think
Um,
like it's important to reflect. Like if you're planning to like let's say, you know, this podcast hire at the studio, for example, like yeah, you're spending money on something like that, but like you have to have an end goal and like you need to reflect like okay, are these costs really at the end of the day, are they adding up to the point where like you can't foresee it in the
mm,
future and like you need to be able to change and like I think being adaptable in business is super important
yeah,
and you can definitely tell the businesses that are not adaptable versus the ones that are when it
yeah,
comes to like marketing or, you know, shifting of social media or shifting of the space and everything really.
yeah. Well, like sometimes those, like, if those expenses are necessary and you're like, I can't afford them, well, you're left with just make it happen. You have to now move quicker, or it just might not happen. Like maybe you've picked the wrong battle. Like that's sometimes like it's not quitting. Sometimes if something doesn't go to plan. You know, like when I stopped doing javelin, I didn't quit and give up on myself. I gave it a red hot crack. I kept going, and then like I just wasn't throwing far enough. And I'm like, I can't foresee this being a wise decision in comparison to putting all that time and effort more into my business. And that was much like you have to cut costs. I had to cut things I was doing that brought a lot of enjoyment. Like I couldn't dedicate the strict time to train 3, 4 times a week on top of going to the gym 3, 4 times a week to throw. And because the time had to be at this time when my coach was there for 2 hours or whatever. And I was like, it's just now like cutting a cost. I had to cut that to then go more into this. And that, then, or I could pick up more PT clients. I wasn't doing Saturday morning sessions then. Now I've got like Saturday morning sessions. So that makes the financial side of things a little bit easier because I'm making a little bit more money here that I can put into that. And it's this constant rework and, playing around, a constant puzzle that you just never really ends.
Hmm. I I think like that's a super important tip. And like to the person listening right now, hopefully like, you know, you listening through this conversation, it's important to understand, like you were saying, like I think starting something is not going to be easy, but at the same time, that shouldn't deter you from starting something.
No,
You know, like I think it's very easy to sit here and say, you know, like as even myself, a 30-year-old male who only has to depend on myself and you know doesn't have to provide for other people or things, it's very easy for me to say like, oh, you know, just start something,
yeah,
right? But like I think at the same time, like you're the only one that's holding yourself back, you know?
mm,
Like you kind of have to get over whatever is on your mind like holding you back at the end of the day,
yeah,
and a lot of the time that's you. Like yeah, you might have other responsibilities, but like you were saying, you don't need to give up those
no.
responsibilities. You have to find a way to kind of work around other
Yeah,
things.
and I guess it depends also on what those responsibilities are.
Mm.
Yeah, kids, don't give up on them. Your choice to have them.
Yeah.
They didn't ask to be in the
Yeah.
world. But like, if you've got a partner that's like, it's not like they're not supportive. It's like, and you'd be like, oh, my partner, this, my partner. I'm like, that's your choice. We've all been there. Well, a lot of people have been there. I have, everyone, whatever. You're like, but whatever, whether it's a partner, a friend, or whatever it may be, a city that you feel attached to, like it's your choice to be there in that situation still. I'm not saying that's easy because there's plenty of like people that are like feel trapped or whatever it may be. But it's like at the end of the day, the only person that can change that situation will be you. Maybe you need some help doing that. But if you feel like your responsibilities, or it could be like you own a house, like that's not, and you're like, "Oh, I don't want to sell the house because like, people know I own a house, and you're attached to this ego of owning the house. I'm like, yeah, but if owning that house is the reason you don't start your business and you have that regret, like that's going to hurt a lot. I know I couldn't do it. That's why, like, I sat there. I remember the day sitting there being like, all right, I'm about to spend a shit ton of money on this app. That means I'm not going to buy my first home for who knows how long. Like that was, my one of the decisions I had to make or whatever. And I'm like, all right, we're doing it. I've, I've never looked back on that decision. Like I'd love to own, but again, what the beauty in that decision that I made and went down this path, I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't, because what I actually want to own is a small farm. But at that time, I hadn't been exposed to that being a potential that I could do, or maybe that was something I would enjoy more. And so that not owning that property actually gave me a lot of freedom to then go into business. And I remember talking to Oscar Ledlin. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him at all, but he's like business partners with and mates with like Adrian Portelli and all those sort of guys in and doing a lot. And he like is worth like something like $50 million or something, big property developer, investor, and whatever. And he doesn't own his own home. And he was like, yeah, because like what the issue a lot of people do is they attach themselves to a home, and then they won't leave the city. They won't move across the other side of the world or even to the state or even to a different suburb. Like living in a different suburb on the other side of the city completely changes your lifestyle still. And so like just being aware of that decision and not feel like you're making the decision to get down on one knee and ask someone to marry you, or all the or buy a house or get dogs or have kids or whatever it may be, not feeling that pressure because society's saying that. It's like, what do you actually deep down feel like? If I don't do this, I reckon I'll regret it. And it's like, go do that first. The other things will still be there.
Absolutely. Love that answer. Jordan, where can people find the app? Where can people find you? Maybe plug all of that in for the listener right now that hasn't listened before.
Yeah. I mean, InCheck Fit's on it's on Google Play Store and on the Apple Store. So get in 7-day free trial, give it a crack. If you don't like it, no sweat. But
Yeah.
feel free to send us an email with any questions, concerns, or any ideas. Like I said, we're all ears. So all I care about is making it as good as possible for people that get the results that they want. Like and then I can do well from it later. But right now it's about helping people, and so yeah, I want it as best as possible.
There we go. Well,
Yeah.
thank you again for coming back on. If you guys want to go back and listen to the first part, that'll be in the show notes, and you can kind of like come full circle to where it is now. I think it's like very interesting and eye opening. Like what you said, like your last answer too, it kind of brings things in full circle because things change. Like you were saying earlier in the episode, things always change. Where you were 12 months ago coming on the podcast, like, mindset and everything's a lot different. So, definitely go back and listen to that episode as well, because I think like you'll definitely hear the differences that I think your headspace is right now. Yeah. But
Yeah,
thank you for
100%.
coming on.
No, thank you so much. I had a great time, and it's always a pleasure.
All right, and that is it for today's episode. I want to thank you again for tuning in. I hope you picked up a thing or two about this conversation. This was a great conversation, I think. I had a blast talking to Jordan. If you enjoyed it, please share this episode. If you are on Spotify, you can hit that share button onto your socials. DM it to a friend or to a family member who you think is in need of hearing this conversation. I will talk to you all in the next episode. Enjoy the rest of your week.